Simon, I mentioned boxing, and we're going to go there right now. John Fury, father of Tyson Fury, has been talking, none too happy, when he was talking to the Seconds Out channel about the prospect of Fury ever fighting Usyk. And do you know what? This PR battle rumbles on and on and on. And maybe predictably, John takes the blame for this fight having never happened away from Tyson and puts it well and truly in the court of Oleksandr Usyk. This is John Fury.
That little Ukrainian rabbit doesn't want to fight Tyson. But what he's trying to do, he's trying to kill two birds with one stone, turn the public against Tyson, which have done a good job because the public's daft anyway, aren't they? If they knew as much about the job as we do, they'd be a lot better off. Unless he gets on the video and tells the truth of what he did, there'll never be a fight for Usyk. Never be. Look what wonders he's done for this country. He's put this country on the map. How quickly they turn and support a total foreigner. Gets my goat. And you know something? If it ever does come off, when he apologises for trying to bamboozle people, the public, trying to put the blame on Tyson, slipping out the back door. I'm clever. Tyson's even cleverer. But until he tells the truth and admits where he's gone wrong, tried to slip out the back door and blame everybody else, him and his team. Tyson would fight him in a telephone box on the moon. On the moon. He refused 17 million, mate, pound. And he's going to probably get chinned by Daniel Dubois for buttons.
So that was John Fury talking to the Seconds Out channel. So hang on. According to John, Usyk owes Tyson an apology.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to happen anytime soon, is it? I mean, look, we are and have always been huge admirers of Tyson Fury for his achievements, for his charisma, but there are other times when he needs to be pulled up. And like most people in the boxing world, if you have the audacity to do anything other than praise, they get all upset. And I think Tyson's video stuff that he's been doing recently is childish and beneath him. He's better than that, got far more charisma and substance than some of the things that comes out of his trap. But I also do concur that it's not quite as black and white as Tyson Fury sucking all the air out of the room and Tyson Fury wanting to do everything his way. He is the A side of the conversation. The problem that everybody, and everybody knows it, and everybody knows it in boxing at the top of the tree, whether that's Eddie Hearn or whether it's Frank Warren or whether it's Ben Shalom or whether it's Shelley Fink or whether it's Bob Arum, the money in Saudi is the only thing that makes the fights happen. And people need to get that into their head. Gareth A. Davis talked about Saudi's a good thing. Now he's beginning to come around to a different thinking, realising that unless they decide that they're going to put money up for these fights, then every other fight these fighters have, they're underpaid. And this debate about Fury and Usyk, yeah, they may be difficult. I can guarantee you they're both difficult. Both sides of the coin are difficult. The only thing I would say that Fury is guilty of is keep popping his head above the parapet and writing checks that he doesn't cash. And, and from that point of view, he'd be better saying nothing. But nobody's turning against Tyson Fury in favour of Oleksandr Usyk.
Well, he says the public turned against Tyson.
But John also said that the public are daft.
There's a truth in that.
But, I think the public are becoming slightly frustrated with Tyson's endless rantings and endless calling out of people's names, me included.
You hammered him in his column, column.
I wrote an article about what I thought of him, which is that he's one of the most charismatic, enigmatic sportsmen that this country's ever produced. That ultimately he's better than some of the utterings that come out of his trap. What's wrong with that? On one hand, I'm saying you're charismatic and enigmatic, your achievements are there to be measured and celebrated. But on the other hand of it, dial it back a bit. Dial back the narrative of who you're going to fight, when you're going to fight, who's this and who's that, and what kind of house that person lives in, and what kind of person that is, and what kind of this is and that. It's a bit boring now. It's not engaging. It's not interesting. It's not credible. With respect to Tyson, you can't go on people like Piers Morgan's show and bet him £1 million you're going to not fight again, and then you do fight again, you don't pay it. All that stuff irritating because they're all mouth and trousers. And I think that generationally, he is the best. I think he'll beat the lot of them. I don't think he's frightened of any of them. There's narratives being run around. I have relationships with people that are in Anthony Joshua's camp. I have relationships with other people in other camps, and they like to allude to the fact that Fury is frightened of fighting Joshua or fighting any of these people, and that I'm too biased towards Fury. I'm not. I don't think Fury's fighting any of them. but he wants to fight him on his terms and he wants to get paid. And the problem is the Saudis are the guys that are holding all the cards.
Do you think it's right that the public now are seemingly turning quite a bit now on Tyson Fury?
No, I don't think they should. But they will turn and get irritated because certain people will make observations. And when Tyson Fury rocks up to a stadium, there'll be 94,000 people sitting there.
Yeah.
So if John's getting all agitated and irritated and wants to call the general public daft, which I'm sure will ingratiate him and his family all the bit more, because people aren't daft, the heavyweight division is by association relatively laughable at this moment in terms of its ability to make fights. And it isn't helped by background noise. Now, Tyson either wants to let people do his business for him and get deals done. We all know that he has achieved remarkable things. But I just think that the idea that the public have been turned by Usyk, no, I don't think... I think people are frustrated. They want to see the best fighter fighting. They're not turned by anything.
Is this the Fury PR campaign getting a bit desperate?
Well, it's a bloody... poor attempt at it, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're going to run around calling Paul everybody daft, there's not much of a PR going on. If he thinks Usyk's going to apologise to him, it'll be a long day before they fight then.
Now, Simon, as you know, you and I were live here in this studio earlier in the week with Chris Eubank Senior. And Chris Eubank Senior had a fair old amount to say for himself, not least the fact that he received a letter from his son, Chris Jr., saying, look, for the time being, please step away from me and my activities within boxing. Now, many people have had their say on that. Eubank Senior also had a swipe on the way there at the promoters regarding the promotion of his son's fight against Conor Benn. That was a fight that never happened, of course, and that's been well documented. Now, again, on this Seconds Out channel, one of the promoters of that fight, Callum Sauerland, had a bit of a swipe at us for the interview we did with Eubank Senior.
I'm not really going to comment on it. I don't think that interview should have been aired. I think that some people need to look at themselves as to why that interview was aired. Honestly, I think it's not a good reflection on society that such an interview is aired in 2023. And I think we all know what we're talking about. I couldn't listen to it because I have a lot of respect for Senior, and I didn't want to listen to the interview, and I don't think people should. So I'm not going to answer questions on it, but I did get one quote off it that he was paid $9 million to fight Yildirim. I can assure you it wasn't $9 million.
So that was Callum Sauerland, who of course was the promoter of Chris Eubank Jr. In the fight that never happened with Conor Benn. What's your take on his take of our interview with Senior?
Oh, look, I honestly don't know how he dares. I mean, it's like taking moral lessons from Callum Sauerland is like taking lessons in humility from Donald Trump. You know, they don't resonate with anybody of any significance. This is a guy that was prepared to stick his fighter, irrespective of the circumstances, into a fight. This is a guy that will tell you quite happily, if you listen to him, that he hasn't got much of a relationship left with Eubank Jr. because he's coming to the end of a contract and he needs to make some money out of this fight. So I think he needs to wind his neck in. He wasn't in the room. He didn't know what Eubank Senior was like. I did not like what Chris was saying. I found it uncomfortable. I found it unnecessary for him to be talking about his private relationship with his son. But we started the conversation. You started the conversation with the notion that we expected him to be so proud of the Eubank legacy. None of us saw coming what Chris was prepared to say. And I spoke to him afterwards. I spoke to him before. And they can make these assertions that he's not of sound body and mind. When I got my telling off outside from him about using inappropriate language with him, and when I spent time with him afterwards, I don't get the sense this is a man that's not altogether... He's got tremendous grief in his life. Tremendous grief that none of us can imagine for the loss of a son. What I got the sense of was a hurt person that's hurt by the nature of the deterioration of his relationship with another son, and he's got anger at some of the people, whether that's Hearn, whether it's Sauerland, whether it's people that are around his son, that he thinks aren't in his son's best interests. Now, they can diminish and they can try to suggest that what's coming out of his mouth is based upon the fact he's not stable and that we profit from it. I did not see coming. I sat there in that interview and you heard me saying, well, Chris, why are you making it all about yourself? You know, your son's got a right to step outside from underneath you. Your son should be able to do this, your son should be able to do that. So none of us basked in the glory of a man having a meltdown moment. No. And so for Calla, who I like as a bloke, but the hypocrisy of it, the absolute claptrap and audacity, I honestly don't know how he dares. I don't know how he dares. It's not because I'm offended that he's got an opinion on the fact that you and I did an interview. I genuinely do not know how he dares.
I think it's fair to say there are a number of people out there who willingly want to discredit Chris Eubank Senior.
Yeah, I mean, Chris can do that for himself without other people's help. But to suggest that ultimately it was, and I agree with them, it was slightly unedifying.
But they have a reason for wanting to discredit him.
Well, yeah, because it feathers their nest. It creates their opportunity. It creates division and keeps them in control over a particular asset class. That asset class is Chris Eubank Jr., because that's what gets them paid. So with that in mind, are they in the best interests of Chris Eubank Jr.? Is it right to drive him into a situation where, we took medical advice to suggest to him which drugs that other fighter could fight with? That's what Kalle Sauerland said on this show. And you're going to put yourself forward as the moral harbinger or judgment call on what a media platform has done, with somebody that no one understood he was going to say that about his son.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I didn't think it was particularly comfortable. He wasn't egged on, but he wanted to impart a message, and he's obviously got a feeling of sorrow and resentment. If they want to categorise that as mental instability, well, I'm not a psychiatrist, neither are you, and I tell you damn straight, neither is Eddie Hearn and Kalle Sauerland. The only psychiatrist they need is how much money they can get out of a situation.
Well, of
that's
course,
the only psychiatry they would want.
It was you who had called Eubank Jr. a charlatan.
Yeah.
And of course, it was incumbent of me to put that to Eubank Senior, and he addressed it. So the bottom line is this: if Kalle Sauerland and Eddie Hearn are listening, they probably say they're not, but they will be. The studio is yours anytime next week. Come in and join us. We're coming up to 10 to 1.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.